Attention passionate Washington Commanders fans. Latest news, something big is happening in the NFC East and it could change the game. We're talking about a direct impact on Washington Commanders' path to another Super Bowl run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Washington Commanders fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with YOUR, FRINDS and Washington Commanders FANS. Let's get to the news. Now, folks, if you've been paying close attention to what's happening around the NFC East lately, you know that the Washington Commanders are truly in a pivotal moment. The offseason was all about bolstering that defensive line, which was one of the strongest aspects of their squad last year. After making a splash by bringing in players like Javon Kinlaw, Eddie Goldman, and Dietrich Wise Jr., the team was clearly trying to reinforce their trenches, aiming for continuity and even more dominance on defense. That was a smart move, especially considering how well they performed last season and their promising run that led them all the way to the NFC Championship game. But as everyone knows, football is a game of constant adaptation, and sometimes even the best plans can be derailed in seconds. And that's exactly what happened last Thursday night in that game against the Green Bay Packers. Things were looking good. Initially, the Commanders' defense was holding its own, but then tragedy struck. Dietrich Wise Jr., one of their key pass rushers and a vital part of their defensive rotation, went down with a quadricep injury that turned out to be season-ending. It's a blow no team wants, especially not one that's trying to keep that defensive identity strong. Wise has been a disruptive force on the edge, providing pressure, creating turnovers, and helping set the tone for that defensive front. Losing him for the season is a significant setback, and it immediately raises questions about depth and how the Commanders will respond moving forward. Now, people are already talking about what this means for Washington's season. The team's front office and coaching staff, no doubt, are now looking at their options. They want to maintain that aggressive, disruptive defensive line that they've worked so hard to build. That's where the trade market comes into play. If you think about it, the NFL is a league where depth is everything, especially on the defensive line, where injuries are common and the physical toll is immense. With Wise out, the Commanders might need to look outward. Perhaps a trade could be the answer to filling that void without waiting for the next draft. And here's where it gets really interesting. Recently, Christopher Knox of Bleacher Report, one of the most respected voices when it comes to NFL trade speculation, took a deep dive into the trade landscape heading into Week 3 of the season for 2025. And he threw in a name that might just be perfect for Washington's needs right now: Mazi Smith, a young defensive tackle currently with the Dallas Cowboys. Now, Smith isn't a household name yet, but he's a player with a lot of potential. Knox describes him as a 6'3" and 337-pound defender, and size like that can be a game-changer against the run. He's only 24 years old, with 2 years remaining on his rookie contract, making him a very attractive piece for teams looking to develop talent without breaking the bank. What's interesting is that Smith's future with Dallas is a bit uncertain. The arrival of Kenny Clark in a recent trade for Micah Parsons has shifted the Cowboys' defensive line rotation, making Smith somewhat of an afterthought. The new coaching staff in Dallas seems to be leaning toward different personnel, and that might mean Smith is available. It's a classic NFL scenario. When a player's role diminishes and the team has other priorities, a trade can be an option. Knox estimates that the Cowboys might accept a 6th-round pick in 2026 in exchange for Smith. For Washington, that could be a bargain, adding a young, high-upside player to fill a critical need without giving up too much. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Why would Dallas be willing to trade him to a division rival? Well, NFL teams often prefer not to trade within the division unless the return is compelling. But in this case, Dallas might see this as an opportunity to shed a player who isn't fitting into their plans anymore, especially if they're looking to clear cap space or make other roster moves. Plus, Smith's potential upside is worth considering for Washington, especially after losing Wise. Imagine adding a young, massive defensive tackle who can develop into a key piece for the future. That's exactly the kind of move that could make a difference, especially if Washington wants to stay aggressive and competitive this season. And let's not forget, the Commanders already have a strong foundation on defense. Players like Jonathan Allen, Darren Payne, and Montez Sweat are the core, but what they need is reliable depth, especially on the interior of that defensive line. Smith, with his size and youth, could be a perfect rotational piece right now, but also someone who could grow into a more prominent role down the line. It's a win-win situation. Washington gets a talented player with upside, and Dallas potentially clears a roster spot and saves some cap space. Of course, acquiring Smith isn't just about filling a spot. It's about strategic planning for the season ahead. The NFC East is fiercely competitive, with teams like the Eagles and the Cowboys always pushing hard. The Commanders want to ensure they have enough firepower on defense to match those teams. Losing Wise leaves a gap, but a trade for a player like Smith could help fill that gap and keep the pressure on opposing offenses. The defensive line is the heartbeat of any good defense, and Washington knows it. They've been building this unit with an eye toward both the present and the future, and this potential trade could be a step toward solidifying that. Now, it's also worth mentioning that the trade market is always fluid, and teams are constantly evaluating their rosters. The Commanders, with their eye on improving their squad, are likely watching how this situation unfolds. Will Dallas decide to move Smith? Will Washington pull the trigger if the offer is right? Those are questions only time will answer, but one thing is clear. This injury to Wise has put the Commanders in a position where they might need to be proactive. Waiting around might not be the best option, especially if they want to keep their defensive edge. In the grand scheme of things, this is part of a bigger narrative about how teams adapt to adversity. Injuries are the cruel reality of football, but they also open doors for new opportunities. For Washington, that door might be opening right now, offering a chance to bring in a talented young player like Mazi Smith, who can help them chase that Super Bowl dream. And if they manage to pull off such a move, it could be a game changer, not just for this season, but for the years to come. As fans, we all know how important a strong defensive line is, especially in the NFC East, where every game is a battle of trenches. The Commanders have shown resilience and a smart eye for talent, and now they might need to take that next step by making a bold move on the trade market. It's a fascinating situation to watch unfold, and I'll be keeping a close eye on how things develop. Whether they decide to go for Smith or find another solution, one thing is certain. The fight for NFC East supremacy is more intense than ever, and Washington is not backing down. And now, Washington Commanders fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this? Do you think acquiring Mazi Smith would be a smart move? Or do you believe the team should look elsewhere? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the Washington Commanders. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned for the latest Washington Commanders news. Whether it's trades, injuries, or game analysis, I'll keep you informed, because being a fan means being part of this journey, through every win, every loss, and every big move along the way.